The blood-red lake, the face in the sky, the scream that tears through the fabric of reality. We all know the moment. It is etched into the collective psyche of every Berserk fan, a trauma we share, a scar we touch every time we open Volume 13. We see Griffith, the White Hawk, kneeling in the water, his body broken, but his ambition burning brighter than ever. We see Guts, the struggler, running, screaming, desperate to save the man who's about to damn them all. But stop. Pause that frame. Take a deep breath and let the image dissolve. Now, reconstruct it. Imagine the water is still red. The eclipse still blots out the sun, casting that sick, violet light over the world. But look at the figures. Down in the water, screaming, struggling against the invisible pressure of causality, is not Guts. It's Griffith. And floating above him, shrouded in a darkness so absolute, it seems to eat the light around it, is not the hawk. It is the dog. Today, we are going to walk down a path that Kentaro Miura hinted at but never took. We are going to stare into the abyss of a what-if so terrifying, so visceral, that it forces us to question everything we know about the Black Swordsman. We are asking, what if Guts had been the one to activate the Beherit? What if Guts became a god hand? I can feel you recoiling. No, you say. Guts is the struggler. He fights against fate. He would never sacrifice. And you're right. The Guts we know, the Guts who survived the eclipse, is defined by his refusal to submit. But to understand Berserk, to truly honor the psychological complexity Miura wove into every panel, we have to admit a terrifying truth. The potential for the God Hand didn't just exist in Griffith's ambition. It existed in Guts' trauma. To make this switch, to put the crimson Beherit in Guts' hand, we have to go back. We have to understand that the eclipse wasn't a random lightning strike. It was the culmination of a lifetime of conditioning. Griffith fell because he was a dreamer who lost his wings. But for Guts to fall, we have to break the survivor. Let's rewind one of the most quiet, profound moments in the entire Golden Age arc, the bonfire of dreams. Do you remember the crackle of the fire? The way Miura drew the sparks drifting up into the night sky, mirroring the distant stars. Guts is sitting there with Casca, his massive sword resting on his shoulder, a burden he carries so casually it's become part of his anatomy. He looks at the band of the hawk celebrating, and he says something that breaks my heart every time I read it. They're all looking at a light called Griffith. But my light isn't there. He talks about how he's just warming himself by their fire. This is the key. This is the seed of the God Hand Guts. Griffith's vulnerability was his ambition. It was a tower so high that when it crumbled, it crushed him. But Guts' vulnerability is his emptiness. He defines himself solely by his ability to swing a sword, to survive. He has no dream. He has no self outside of the battlefield. Now, apply the pressure. In the canon timeline, Guts leaves to find his own dream. He gains autonomy. But in our dark reflection, let's change the flow of causality just slightly. Imagine Guts doesn't leave. Or imagine he tries to leave, but something pulls him back before he can find himself. Imagine the timeline where Griffith, perhaps during the rescue mission, or perhaps in the dungeon itself, actually dies. The White Hawk falls. The dream ends. Suddenly, the band of the Hawk, this family Guts has finally allowed himself to love, is leaderless. They look to him. Casca looks to him. Rickard, Pippin, Judeau. They are all looking at Guts to be the fire. They need a leader. They need a savior. And Guts, he knows only one way to solve problems. Violence. The pressure starts to build. We are replacing Griffith's torture in the Tower of Rebirth with a different kind of torture for Guts. the torture of responsibility without hope. The Midland Army closes in. The hawks are being slaughtered. Guts swings the dragon slayer, or his golden age sword, until his hands bleed, until his muscles tear. But it's not enough. He sees Judo take an arrow meant for him. He sees Casca broken by the weight of leadership he can't carry. He realizes with a cold, sinking horror that his sword, the one thing he trusted, the one thing that never lied to him, is useless against the crushing weight of the world. This is where the Beherit finds him. You know the rule. The Beherit is not a lucky charm. It is a key that opens a door when the owner's despair reaches its absolute peak. It activates when a fissure opens in the heart so wide that humanity drains out of it. For Griffith, that fissure was the realization that he would never fly again. For Guts, the fissure is the realization that he is powerless to save the only things he ever loved. Can you see it? The rain falling on a muddy battlefield. The hawks are surrounded, decimated. Guts is on his knees, surrounded by the corpses of his friends, not sacrificed, but slaughtered by an enemy he couldn't defeat. He holds the crimson Beherit, perhaps a trinket he picked up from Griffith's body, a final memento of the man he admired and hated. The blood from his wounds runs over the face of the egg. The lips shift, the eyes open, and the world screams. Now we are in the interstice, the dimension of the God Hand. The landscape is M.C. Escher meets H.R. Geiger, spirals of flesh, faces in the floor. The four angels descend, Void, Slan, Ubik, Conrad. They look at Guts, and this is where it gets interesting. What do they offer him? They offered Griffith a kingdom. They offered him wings. But Guts doesn't want a castle. Guts wants power, not political power, but absolute physical dominion. He wants the power to never be hurt again. He wants the power to ensure that nothing can ever take anything away from him. Ubik would whisper to him, floating around his head, showing him visions of his past. You were born from a corpse, Guts. You were raised by a mercenary who sold you out. You have always been a dog, beaten and kicked. And even now, when you tried to be a man, when you tried to have a family, the world crushed it. Why? Because you are human. Because you are weak. Slan would lean in, her voice like velvet over gravel. You struggle, struggler. But the sword is heavy, isn't it? The blood never stops. Wouldn't you like to be the one who holds the sword of causality? Wouldn't you like to be the beast? The beast. We have to talk about the beast of darkness. In the canon, the beast manifests after the eclipse. It is the trauma of the sacrifice. But deep down, the beast was always there. It is the mad dog Casca saw in him during the 100-Man Slayer event. It is the primal violent ID that takes over when Guts stops thinking and starts killing. If Griffith becomes Femto, the hawk of darkness, the embodiment of cold, distant perfection, then Guts becomes the beast of despair. His God Hand form wouldn't be sleek or elegant. It would be a monstrosity of armor and muscle, a fusion of the Berserker armor's aesthetic and a Lovecraftian nightmare. A creature of pure, unadulterated fury. But here is the catch. The price. I sacrifice. Those two words. To become a demon, you must sever your ties to humanity. You must sacrifice that which keeps you human. Griffith sacrificed the hawks because they were the fuel for his dream. Who does Guts sacrifice? This is the hardest part to swallow. If Guts is in this position, if the hawks are already dying or dead around him, who is left? There is only one answer that carries the tragic weight Miura demands. He sacrifices Casca. Wait, I know. Put down the pitchforks. Hear me out. This is the horror of the scenario. In this twisted timeline, Casca represents his humanity. She is the vulnerability he can no longer afford if he wants the power to destroy the world that hurt him. She is the proof that he is a man, not a sword. To become the God Hand, to become the ultimate warrior who can challenge the heavens themselves, he must kill the part of himself that loves. He must kill the part of himself that needs warmth. Imagine Guts, eyes burning with tears of blood, looking at Casca. Perhaps she's the only one left alive. Or perhaps she's the one trying to pull him back from the brink. And he realizes that as long as he loves her, he is weak. As long as he fears for her safety, he can be broken. The Beherit screams. The brand of sacrifice is carved, not into Guts's neck, but into the flesh of the woman he loves. The feast begins. This recontextualizes the entire concept of struggle. If Guts falls, it's not because he was evil. It's because the world of Berserk is so cruel that it teaches you a fatal lesson. Love is a liability. To survive the eclipse, Guts, in canon, had to become a monster of rage. To cause the eclipse, he would have to decide that being a monster is better than being a victim. It's a terrifying mirror to Griffith. Griffith sacrificed others to elevate himself. Guts, in this tragedy, sacrifices his heart to protect himself from pain. But the transformation isn't just physical, it's philosophical. Griffith became femto and attained a kind of icy detachment. He feels nothing. Guts, as a God Hand, I don't think he would feel nothing. I think he would feel everything, magnified to a cosmic scale. He would be the God Hand of wrath, the avatar of every person who has ever been wronged, every person who has ever screamed at the sky, "Why me?" He wouldn't sit in a castle. He would be a force of nature, a hurricane of iron and blood that tears through the physical world, hunting down, well, who? If Griffith is dead in this timeline, who is the antagonist? Maybe it's the idea of evil itself. Maybe Guts becomes the God Hand who tries to kill the other God Hands. A virus in the system. A mad dog, even among the angels. This sets the stage for a story that is even darker than the one we know. A story where the hero didn't just lose an eye and an arm, but lost his soul. And the scariest part? When we look at Guts in those early Black Swordsman chapters, the way he smiles when he cuts people in half, the way he tells the Count's daughter to kill herself, we realize he wasn't that far away from this reality. The line between the Black Swordsman and the Beast of Darkness is razor thin, and the eclipse, that was just a push. Now, take a moment. Let that sink in, the image of Guts floating in the vortex, not as the survivor, but as the architect of the nightmare. But if Guts is the villain, who is the hero? Who rises from the lake of blood to fight him? The silence that follows the scream is the loudest sound in the universe. We left off at the precipice of the unthinkable. The crimson Beherit, the egg of the king, has dissolved in the hands of Guts. The lake of tears has turned into a vortex of flesh and souls. The band of the hawk is gone, devoured not to pave the way for a castle in the sky, but to fuel a fortress of solitude. Now we have to look at what emerges from that cocoon. And this, my friends, is where we have to channel the absolute darkest channeling of Kentaro Miura's artistic spirit. When Griffith emerged as femto, he was sleek, he was aerodynamic, he was a creature of the air, a dark angel, a perversion of the hawk imagery, cold, distant, untouchable. His design spoke of arrogance and a detachment from humanity so complete that he didn't even hate us. We were just ants to him. But Guts? Guts is of the earth. Guts is of the mud. Guts is of the blood. If Guts becomes a member of the God Hand, He does not become a creature of flight. He becomes a creature of weight. Imagine the cocoon cracking open, but instead of a slender figure rising, the darkness heavies, the gravity in the dimension shifts. The other god hands, Void, Slan, Ubik, Conrad, they float. But the new member, he lands. Thud. The sound shakes the foundations of the interstice. He stands up. He is colossal. If Femto is a sleek jet fighter, this entity is a walking tank, a juggernaut of obsidian plating and raw muscle fiber woven from the darkness of the abyss. He looks like the Berserker armor realized as biological fact, but stripped of its feral, dog-like agility and replaced with an unmovable, towering presence. He is covered in spikes, not for defense, but as a warning. Do not touch me. His face? There is no face. There is only a helm of bone fused to his skull with a single glowing red eye in the center, a cyclopean window into a furnace of infinite rage. The other eye socket is a hollow void, a tribute to the humanity he lost even before, the sacrifice. He is not the wings of darkness. He is the anchor of despair. He is the god hand of slaughter. And his power? Femto manipulates space and gravity. Slan manipulates emotions and intestines. This new entity, let's call him the beast, manipulates violence itself. In his presence, bloodlust is not a choice. It is a biological imperative. Just standing near him drives lesser beings into a frenzy of self-destruction. He is the embodiment of the idea that life is nothing but a struggle to kill before you are killed. Now, look at the ground. Look at the feast. The apostles are tearing through the hawks. But something is different. In the canon eclipse, Griffith raped Casca to spite Guts, to sever the last bond, to corrupt Guts' child. It was an act of petty, cosmic malice. But Guts' corruption is tragic, not petty. Does he participate in the slaughter? No. He stands there, motionless, his massive sword, now a part of his arm, a blade of solidified shadow that can cut through dimensions, resting on the ground. He watches Casca being surrounded. He sacrificed her. He gave her up. But in his twisted God-hand logic, the logic of a man who has been broken by the world, he believes he has saved her. I have freed you. The beast's voice would rumble, sounding like grinding tectonic plates. I have freed you from the pain of hope. I have freed you from the weakness of loving a dog like me. It is a perverse distortion of protection. He destroys her body to save her from the cruelty of the world, absorbing her soul into his vortex so she can never be hurt by anyone else ever again. It is possessive, toxic, monstrous love pushed to the event horizon. But wait, we need a survivor. Berserk is nothing without the struggler. If Guts is the villain, who carries the torch of humanity? Who carries the brand? It has to be Casca, and this is where the narrative twists the knife even deeper. In the canon, Skull Knight bursts in to save Guts and Casca. He foresaw the eclipse. He knew the flow of causality. In this timeline, the Skull Knight still arrives. He crashes through the dimension, his horse made of moonlight. He sees the new God hand. He sees the beast standing over the woman he sacrificed. Skull Knight knows he cannot kill a God hand who has just been born. The power is too raw. But he can save the seed of resistance. He charges, not at Guts. He charges at the apostles, swarming Casca. Casca is broken. She is bleeding. The brand of sacrifice is seared into her chest, right over her heart, a permanent reminder that the man she loved sold her heart for power. She is screaming, not just in pain, but in the absolute psychological annihilation of seeing Guts, her Guts, standing there as a demon, watching her die. Skull Knight scoops her up. He grabs Rickert, who was outside, confused and terrified. And he rides. Does the beast stop him? This is the chilling moment. Femto tried to crush Skull Knight, but the beast? He watches. That single red eye tracks them. He lets them go. Why? Because a hunter needs prey. Because deep down, in the nucleus of that demon, Guts still wants to be chased. He wants the struggle to continue. He needs an enemy to justify his existence. If he kills everyone, the war ends. And if the war ends, he has to be alone with his thoughts. And that is the one thing Guts has always feared more than death. So, the eclipse ends. The sun rises over a world that feels heavier, darker. Now, we flash forward. 2 years. Welcome to the Black Witch arc. We are not following a massive muscle-bound swordsman carrying a hunk of iron. We are following Casca. But this is not the Casca we knew in the Golden Age. And it is certainly not the regressed potato Casca of the canon. This Casca is lucid. She is sharp. She is a razor blade made of trauma. She wears armor that is scavenged, piecemeal, covered in a ragged cloak. She is missing an eye, perhaps lost in the eclipse, a parallel to Guts. She doesn't carry a massive slab of iron. She can't. She carries 2 swords. One is her old saber, polished to a mirror sheen. The other is a jagged, broken piece of a monster's bone, a weapon of pure desperation. She is the struggler. But her struggle is different from Guts. Guts fought with rage. Casca fights with spite. She is driven by a burning, cold fury against the betrayal. Guts didn't just kill her friends. He killed the very idea of trust. He proved that men, even the best men, will burn the world rather than deal with their own pain. She travels the land hunting apostles. But where Guts was a blunt instrument, Casca is a tactician. She uses traps. She uses bait. She uses the environment. Every fight is a desperate chess match where she is one mistake away from death. This makes the tension in every panel skyrocket. We know Guts can take a hit. We know Casca can't. Every victory feels earned, scraped from the jaws of defeat. And the brand? The brand on her chest bleeds every night. It calls to the spirits. She can never sleep. She's constantly tormented by ghosts, by visions of Judeau, of Pippin, asking her why she survived. And worst of all, the brand connects her to him. She can feel Guts, not his location, but his state. She can feel his rage simmering at the back of her mind like a migraine that never goes away. She knows he is out there, and he knows she is there. Let's look at the world under the influence of the God Hand of Wrath. Midland hasn't become a utopia under a false king like Griffith's Falconia. It has become a war world. Guts, as a God Hand, doesn't want to rule. He wants to incite. His influence seeps into the groundwater of humanity. Kingdoms break treaties. Brothers turn on brothers. Mercenary bands roam the countryside, looting and pillaging, growing larger and more violent. The concept of chivalry dies completely. The world reverts to a primal state where strength is the only law. There are no safe havens. The Kushan Empire invades, not as a calculated conquest, but as a frenzied horde. The Holy See becomes a militant cult of flagellants, believing that pain is the only way to purify the soul. And in the center of it all, in the deep astral layers, the beast waits. He sits on a throne of rusted swords, a grotesque mockery of the Iron Throne, perhaps, but purely Mura-esque. He is waiting for the one person who matters. The tragedy here is the inversion of the Berserk dynamic. In the original story, Guts is the beast trying to regain his humanity. In this story, Casca is the human trying not to become a beast. She is constantly tempted. The apostles she hunts whisper to her, "Use the Beherit, Casca. You have one, don't you?" the one Guts left behind. Sacrifice this cruel world. Become like him. It's the only way to kill him. Yes, she has a Beherit. Maybe she carries the Betchy that Puck used to carry. It mocks her. It offers her an easy way out. Just give in to the hate. Just admit that Guts was right. That power is everything. But she refuses. And this is why her struggle is so compelling. She refuses to become him. She fights to prove that humanity, frail, bleeding, crying humanity, is stronger than his demonic perfection. Think about the companions she would gather. She wouldn't attract a bright-eyed thief like Isidro immediately. She would attract the broken. Perhaps she finds Farnese much earlier. Farnese, the woman obsessed with pain and dogma, meets Casca, the woman who lives in constant pain, but rejects dogma. Their dynamic would be electric. Farnese would see Casca not as a heretic, but as a martyr. Casca would see Farnese as a cautionary tale of what happens when you let fear rule you. And Shirka, the little witch? In the canon, Shirka helps Guts control the beast. In this timeline, Shirka would be terrified of Casca's brand because it radiates the energy of the fifth angel, the one they call the Black Dog. But Shirka would eventually see the steel in Casca's soul. She wouldn't teach Casca how to control a berserker rage. She would teach Casca how to shield her mind from the God Hand's influence. Magic becomes a tool of defense and tactics, not just blasting power. Now, let's visualize a specific scene to anchor this reality, the reunion on the Hill of Swords. In the canon, Griffith flies down to the Hill of Swords to check if he still has feelings. He meets Guts and Rickard. In our story, Casca is visiting the graves of the Hawks. She is placing flowers, small, withered things she found in this dying world. Rickard is there, forging weapons he hopes Casca never has to use. Suddenly, the snow stops falling, the wind dies, the birds stop singing, the pressure drops. He appears, not from the sky, but stepping out of the shadows of the trees. The beast. He is human-sized now, an avatar, a projection of his true self. He looks like Guts, but wrong. His skin is pale as ash. His hair is white, the stress of the transformation. His eyes are black with red irises. He wears black armor that looks like it's weeping oil. Casca freezes. The brand screams in agony. Blood soaks her shirt. Guts looks at the graves. He looks at his own sword, the Dragon Slayer, which Rickard has planted as a grave marker for Guts the human. They are still dead, Guts says. His voice is flat, devoid of the passion he used to have. Why do you come here? Dead is dead. Casca draws her sword. Her hands are shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of pure hatred. You don't get to speak to them, she whispers. You don't get to look at them. Guts looks at her, and for a second, just a microsecond, we see a flicker of the old Guts, a twitch of the muscle in his jaw. I did it for you, he says, the lie he tells himself. You are alive. You are strong. You are fighting. Isn't this better than being weak? Isn't this better than dying in the mud? He truly believes it. He believes he gave her the gift of struggle, the only thing he ever valued. He turned her into a warrior because he couldn't imagine a world where she could be happy just being a woman. He projected his own pathology onto her. Casca doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She lunges. She drives her blade right at his heart. He catches it, bare-handed. The blade cuts his palm. Black blood, ichor, drips onto the snow. He stares at the blood. He seems fascinated by it. He hasn't bled in years. Good, he says. A dark smile spreads across his face, a smile that reminds us of Zod. Make me feel it, Casca. Make me feel that I'm alive. He shatters her sword with a squeeze of his hand. He backhands her, sending her flying into the snow. It's brutal. Its domestic violence escalated to cosmic horror. He stands over her. "Get stronger," he commands. "Sharpen your fangs, or I will devour you too." And then he vanishes into the mist, leaving her broken in the snow, leaving Rickert staring in horror at the monster his friend has become. This scene establishes the central conflict. It's not just a physical battle. It's a battle of philosophies. Guts represents nihilistic strength, the idea that survival justifies any atrocity. Casca represents resilient humanism, the idea that survival is meaningless if you lose your soul. This recontextualization changes how we view the beast of darkness. In the canon, the beast is an intruder. Here, the beast is the driver. It forces us to ask, was Guts always this close to the edge? Was the only thing keeping him from being a monster the fact that he was too busy protecting people? Once that burden was removed, by sacrificing them, the monster took the wheel. It is a terrifying thought. It suggests that the Black Swordsman persona wasn't a mask. It was the true face, and the Golden Age Guts was the mask. But we know that's not entirely true. We know Guts loved, and that's the tragedy. The god Handguts is a monument to failed love. He is what happens when love turns into possession and fear. So, where do we go from here? We have our villain, the beast, the god of war and despair. We have our hero, Casca, the broken commander, the witch of the wastes. We have a world on fire. But there is a variable we haven't accounted for, a wild card. If Guts took Griffith's place, what happened to Griffith? Did he die in the dungeon? Or is he still out there? A crippled, mute, broken man who watched his best friend become a god? Imagine a Griffith who never got the Beherit back. A Griffith who was rescued by Casca and Rickert after the eclipse. A Griffith who was dragging his tortured body through the mud, mind shattered, watching the world burn because of the man he admired. Does Griffith seek redemption? Or does he seek revenge? This opens up a triangulation of conflict that makes my head spin. Casca, the hero, Guts, the villain, and Griffith, the wretched thing caught in between, the ghost of a dream that turned into a nightmare. We need to find Griffith. We need to see what the White Hawk looks like when his wings are clipped and his feathers are stained with mud. Are you ready to find him? We are wading through the mud now, deep in the trench of this inverted nightmare. We have established Guts as the Titan of terror, the God Hand who turned the world into a slaughterhouse. We have established Casca as the one-eyed witch, the jagged edge of humanity's resistance. But now, we have to find the third point of the triangle. We have to find the hawk in the canon. Griffith's tragedy was that he couldn't live as a cripple. His ego, his dream, was too vast to be contained in a broken vessel. He sacrificed everyone to escape that prison. But in our timeline, he didn't get the choice. The Beherit went to Guts. The door to the heavens slammed shut in Griffith's face. So, where is he? Picture a refugee camp on the edge of the Kushan border. It's a squalid, desperate place. Mud, dysentery, hopelessness. There is a tent in the center, guarded not by knights in shining armor, but by Casca's ragtag band of survivors. Inside, sitting in a makeshift wheelchair, perhaps cobbled together from wagon wheels and scrap wood, is a figure wrapped in bandages. It is Griffith. He is still beautiful, in a haunting, skeletal way. His hair is still silver, though matted and dull. But he is silent. His tongue is gone. His tendons are severed. He cannot hold a sword. He cannot walk. He cannot give a speech to inspire the masses. He is, by all physical metrics, useless. But look at his eyes. In the canon, Griffith's eyes in the dungeon were vacant, defeated, until the Beherit returned. Here, his eyes are burning. They are two chips of blue ice that have seen the face of God, guts, and rejected it. Here is the twist that recontextualizes the entire Golden Age dynamic. Griffith is the mind of the resistance. He cannot fight, but his tactical genius didn't live in his tendons. It lived in his brain. Without the shortcut of the eclipse, Griffith has been forced to do the one thing he never thought he could do, rely entirely on others. Specifically, he has to rely on Casca. It is a dark mirror of their old relationship. Before, Griffith commanded and Casca obeyed. Now, Casca commands. She is the general. She holds the sword. She speaks to the troops. But before every battle, she goes into that tent. She kneels by his chair, not in worship, but in consultation. She lays out the map. Griffith looks at the terrain. He can't speak, so he uses a charcoal stick to draw on a slate. Arrows, circles, crosses. He taps the map with a trembling, ruined finger. His mind is still sharp, ruthless, brilliant. He orchestrates ambushes against apostles. He designs traps that bring down monsters 10 times the size of a man, but there is a terrifying darkness in him too. In the canon, Griffith sacrificed the hawks for a castle. In this timeline, he is willing to sacrifice Casca's soldiers for a win. He points to a unit on the map. He draws an X. Casca looks at him. That's a suicide mission, Griffith. Those are good men. Griffith stares at her. He doesn't blink. He taps the X again. Harder. He is telling her. Victory requires sacrifice. This dynamic creates an unbearable tension. Casca is trying to save humanity, but she is using the tactics of the man who almost destroyed it. She is the morality. He is the cold logic. And every time they win, every time an apostle falls into one of Griffith's traps, Casca wonders, am I just his sword again? Is he using me to kill guts, not to save the world, but because he's jealous? Because that is the elephant in the room. Jealousy. Griffith wanted to be the one who flew. He wanted to be the special one. And now, the mad dog, the brute, the man Griffith thought was just a useful tool. He is the god. He is the one who ascended. Imagine the psychological torture for Griffith. Every time he looks at the sky and sees the crimson clouds of Guts' influence, he is reminded that he wasn't chosen. He was left behind. He is the refuse of causality. And yet, he survives. Why? Because of spite. Pure, unadulterated spite. He refuses to die and let Guts have the satisfaction of being the only one left. He refuses to let the story end with the dog standing over the hawk. This brings us to a pivotal scene. Let's call it the Siege of Ritanus. In this timeline, the city of Ritanus is under siege by a horde of beast men, humans corrupted by Guts' aura into mindless berserkers. Casca's resistance is trapped inside. The situation is hopeless. Casca is on the walls, exhausted. Her armor is battered. She's missing an eye, as we established, and her body is a map of scars. She goes to Griffith. There's too many of them, she says. We have to retreat. Griffith shakes his head. He draws on his slate. He sketches the harbor. He sketches the enemy ships. And then he sketches fire. He wants to burn the city. He wants to trap the enemy inside with them and burn it all down to create a chaotic escape route. It means sacrificing the civilians who haven't evacuated. It means burning the nobility who refuse to help. Casca looks at the plan. It's monstrous. It's something Femto would do. I can't do that, she says. We are not them. Griffith looks up, and for the first time we see a tear, not of sadness, of frustration. He drops the slate. He tries to stand. He falls. He drags himself across the floor, grabbing Casca's boot. He looks up at her, his mouth opening in a silent scream, his eyes pleading, demanding, burning. Do it. Win. Survive. At any cost. He is the devil on her shoulder, urging her to cross the line. He is the temptation of the Beherit, but in human form. And in that moment, the air changes. The hairs on the back of Casca's neck stand up. The brand on her chest sears with a heat so intense she falls to her knees. He is here. Guts hasn't just sent minions this time. The God Hand himself has descended. We see him walking across the water of the harbor. The water boils and evaporates under his feet. He is in his avatar form, the dark, armored warrior, the humanoid typhoon. He isn't flying. He walks with the weight of a collapsing star. He stops at the gates of Britannis. He doesn't knock. He swings his arm. The shockwave shatters the stone gate like it's made of sugar glass. He walks into the city. Soldiers charge him. He doesn't even draw his sword. He just walks through them. They explode on contact, their bodies unable to withstand the pressure of his existence. He is looking for one thing. He senses them. The brand acts as a homing beacon. He walks straight toward the command tent. Casca grabs her sword. She grabs Griffith, who is useless in a fight, and drags him out the back. They are running through the burning streets, a horrific callback to the escape from the eclipse. But this time, the monster isn't a horde of demons. It's Guts. They are cornered in a burning cathedral. The stained glass windows depict the old saints, now illuminated by the fires of hell outside. Guts smashes through the doors. The heavy oak splinters. He stands there. The firelight dances on his black armor. His single red eye locks onto them. Casca, he rumbles. His voice sounds like stones grinding in a crypt. And him. He looks at Griffith. The interaction here is crucial. In the canon, Guts hated Griffith for the betrayal. Here, Guts looks at Griffith with pity. Look at you, Guts says. He walks closer, the hawk, the dreamer, crawling in the dirt. Griffith, unable to speak, glares back with a hatred so potent it feels like it should cut Guts's armor. If eyes could kill, Guts would be dead 1,000 times over. I did this, Guts says, gesturing to his own demonic form. I took the burden. I became the monster so you didn't have to. You were too weak, Griffith. You would have broken under the weight of a true sacrifice. I saved you from your own ambition. It is the ultimate insult. Guts is claiming moral superiority. He is claiming he spared Griffith from the burden of godhood because Griffith wasn't strong enough to handle it. Griffith starts to shake. A sound comes from his throat, a rasping, broken gurgle. He is laughing or crying. It's impossible to tell. Casca steps between them. She raises her broken sword. Stay back, Guts. Guts looks at her. Why do you protect him? He asks, genuinely confused. He used you. He threw you away. I am the one who gave you a purpose. I gave you a war to fight. I made you strong. You made me a widow, Casca screams. You killed the man I loved. You killed the Guts who held me by the bonfire. You are just a thing wearing his skin. Guts goes silent. The red eye dims slightly. The man by the bonfire was weak, he says softly. He couldn't save anyone. I can save everyone by ending them. He raises his hand. Shadows coalesce into a massive blade. He's going to kill them both. He's going to end the struggle right here, right now. But then, a sound. Clang. A sword strikes Guts's armor. It bounces off harmlessly. But it happened. It wasn't Casca. Guts looks down. Griffith has dragged himself forward. He has picked up a fallen soldier's dagger. With his ruined hands, with no tendons to grip, he has wedged the hilt between his palms. He has crawled to Guts' feet and struck his sabaton. A useless, pathetic, completely ineffective attack. But it halts the god hand. Guts stares down at the crippled white hawk, pecking at the iron boot of the beast. "You," Guts whispers. Griffith looks up. His face is twisted in a snarl of defiance. He spits blood onto Guts' armor. In that moment, Guts realizes something terrifying. The dream isn't dead, even broken, even mute, even powerless. Griffith still has that spark, that insane, gravity-defying refusal to accept reality, and Guts fears it. He fears it because it reminds him of the one thing he sacrificed, hope. Guts traded hope for certainty. He traded the risk of loss for the guarantee of power. But seeing Griffith, this wretched creature who should be dead, still fighting, it shakes the foundation of his nihilism. Guts raises his sword to crush Griffith, to erase the reminder. Suddenly, the cathedral roof explodes. Here comes the cavalry, but it's not the Skull Knight this time. It is Zod. Wait, Zod? Yes, Zod the Immortal. In this timeline, Zod does not follow Guts. Zod follows the strongest, but he has grown bored. Guts, as a god hand, is too strong. There is no fight. It's just slaughter. Zod has been wandering, looking for a battle that makes his blood boil. He sees Casca. He sees the struggler. And he sees Guts, the god who refuses to fight fairly. Zod crashes through the roof, landing between Guts and the humans. He roars, a sound that shakes the dust from the rafters. Boring, Zod bellows at Guts. You have become boring, black dog. You're no longer a warrior. You are just a storm. There is no honor in fighting a storm. Zod isn't saving them out of kindness. He is saving them because he wants Casca to grow stronger. He wants her to become a worthy opponent. He swipes at Guts, creating a massive cloud of debris. Go, Zod commands Casca. Casca grabs Griffith. They run. They dive into the sewers beneath the cathedral. Guts stands there. He could kill Zod with a thought. He could collapse the cathedral. But he doesn't. He watches the spot where Griffith was. He touches the spot on his boot where the dagger struck. A tiny, microscopic scratch. The beast smiles. But it is not a happy smile. It is the smile of a man who realizes the game is not over. Run, Hawk, Guts whispers to the shadows. Run, struggler. Make it worth it. Make me feel something. This chapter closes with the trio separated again, but the dynamic has shifted fundamentally. Griffith has proven that his spirit is unbroken. He is no longer just a strategist. He is a symbol of defiance, even against a god. Casca has confronted the monster and survived, solidifying her role as the leader who protects even the broken. And Guts? Guts has felt the first crack in his armor. Not physical, but psychological. He has seen that power did not extinguish the light of the hawk. As Casca and Griffith drift down the sewer river, escaping the burning city, Griffith looks at Casca. He reaches out and touches her hand. He traces a shape on her palm. A shape of a falcon. He is plotting. He is not done. He is going to find a way to kill a god. And for the first time in years, Casca feels a shiver that isn't fear. It's anticipation. We are moving toward the end game. The board is set. The god of war versus the witch and the fallen king. But there is one final secret we have to unearth. One final twist about the nature of the Beherit and the sacrifice that will bring this tragedy to its shattering conclusion. This is it, the terminus of our dark descent. We have walked through the valley of the shadow of the beast, and now we stand at the gates of the end. We have seen Guts trade his humanity for the power to stop the pain, becoming the god Hand of Wrath. We have seen Casca rise from the ashes as the one-eyed witch, the embodiment of spite and survival. We have seen Griffith, the fallen hawk, reduced to a broken strategist, fueled by a hatred so pure it rivals the sun. Now we must bring these three forces together for a conclusion that shatters the very concept of destiny. The world under the reign of the beast is not a kingdom. It is a crucible. The sky is perpetually choked with the smoke of burning cities. The sun is a pale, sickly eye that refuses to look directly at the earth. In this reality, the age of darkness Miura warned us about isn't a prophecy. It is Tuesday. But amidst this desolation, a legend has grown, the legend of the witch and the broken bird. They are not saving the world. That is too noble, too simple for Berserk. They are hunting. We find ourselves at the nexus of the worlds. In the canon, it was the world spiral tree. In our timeline, it is the crater of origins. This is the physical location where the eclipse happened, where guts ascended. The lake has dried up, leaving a vast basin of red dust and fossilized faces. In the center, floating not in the air, but anchored to the ground by massive chains of shadow, is Guts. He doesn't move. He doesn't need to. He is the center of gravity for all malice in the world. He sits in a meditative state, his cyclopean eye closed, listening to the screams of mankind like a lullaby. Casca and Griffith approach. They do not come with an army. An army is useless against a god hand. They come alone, riding Zod, who serves as their reluctant transport, eager only to see if the struggler can finally make the god bleed. The image is striking. The massive, horned demon Zod, carrying the scarred woman and the crippled man, descending into the pit of hell to kill the devil. They land. The dust settles. Guts opens his eye. The pressure is instantaneous. It's like the air turned into lead. Lesser beings would implode. But Casca stands. She has been tempered in the fires of this hell for years. And Griffith sits in a harness, strapped to Zod's back, his eyes fixed on Guts with that terrifying cold intensity. "You came back," Guts says. His voice vibrates in their bones. "Why? To die? Or to join me?" Casca draws her sword, the dragon slayer. Wait, let's pause. Yes, in this timeline she eventually reclaimed Guts' old sword. It's too big for her to swing normally, so she drags it. She uses the momentum. It is a symbol of the burden she picked up when he dropped it. "I came to give you what you wanted, Guts," Casca says. Her voice is raspy, broken, but steady. "You wanted to end the struggle. You wanted silence. So I'm going to shut you up." Guts laughs. It's a dry, joyless sound. "I am the struggle, Casca. I am the end of all things. You cannot kill a concept." And this is where the final secret of the Beherit is revealed. Griffith signals. He can't speak, remember? He taps a rhythm on his harness. Zod grunts and shifts his position. You see, Griffith, with his genius intellect, realized something about Guts' transformation. In the canon, Griffith Femto is immune to almost everything because he exists outside of the physical plane. But Guts became the god hand of wrath. Wrath requires a target. Wrath is a physical emotion. It requires connection. Guts didn't sever his ties to humanity completely. He amplified them. He feels everything. Griffith's plan is not to overpower Guts. It is to overload him. Casca steps forward. She doesn't attack. She drops her armor. She exposes the brand on her chest. It is bleeding, glowing, pulsating. "Look at me," she whispers. In the astral world, the brand acts as a conduit. Usually it draws demons to the sacrifice. But here, because the sacrificer, Guts, and the sacrifice, Casca, share a bond of love that was never truly extinguished, the flow is reversed. Casca begins to channel her pain, not just physical pain. She channels the grief of the campfire, the horror of the eclipse, the loneliness of the nights she spent screaming his name. She pushes all of that trauma into the brand. Guts flinches. For the first time since his ascension, the beast recoils. He clutches his chest. The armor of darkness cracks. "Stop," he growls. "You wanted to feel, didn't you?" Casca screams, tears streaming down her face, tears of blood. "You sacrificed us because you were too scared to feel the pain of losing us. You coward. You wanted to be numb. So I'm going to make you feel every single second of suffering you caused." It's a psychic attack. It's weaponized empathy. It is the most berserk way to fight a god. By forcing him to confront the human heart he tried to throw away. Guts roars. The sound shatters the ground. He creates a shockwave that sends Casca flying. But she stands up. She keeps pushing. And then Griffith makes his move. While Guts is distracted by the psychic feedback loop, Griffith signals Zod. Zod throws Griffith, literally throws him. Griffith soars through the air, a broken ragdoll. He is aiming for Guts's open chest cavity, the void where his heart used to be. In his hand, Griffith holds the Betchi, the small Beherit that Casca carried. But he isn't activating it to become a god hand. The god hand is full. He is activating it to create a singularity. Griffith slams into Guts. The Betchi touches the exposed core of the beast's astral form. Griffith sacrifices himself. Wait, let that sink in. Griffith, the man of infinite ambition, the man who would sacrifice the world for his dream, sacrifices his own life. Why? To save Casca? No. To save the world? No. He does it to ruin Guts. I sacrifice. Griffith's soul screams in the astral plane, loud enough for everyone to hear. My dream. The ultimate inversion. Griffith gives up the one thing that defined him. He feeds his dream to the Beherit. The reaction is cataclysmic. A Beherit fueled by a dream of that magnitude creates a tear in reality. It doesn't open the door to the God hand. It opens a door to the abyss. It creates a vortex that seeks to swallow the God hand of wrath. Guts is being pulled in. The darkness he commands is turning on him. He is being dragged into the vortex created by the suicide of his best friend and worst enemy. He claws at the ground. "Griffith," he screams. There is no hate in his voice anymore. Just panic. Just the terrified realization that he is being left alone. Casca watches. She sees Griffith's body disintegrate into light, consumed by the vortex. She sees Guts struggling, truly struggling, against the suction. And in that moment, she has a choice. She can let him die. She can let the vortex swallow the beast, ending the nightmare. But she is Casca. She runs. She dives. She grabs Guts's hand. The massive, armored hand of the god is caught by the scarred hand of the human. The vortex swirls around them. The noise is deafening. "Let go!" Guts roars. "You'll be pulled in." "You don't get to leave," Casca yells back, her voice cutting through the roar of causality. "You don't get the easy way out, Guts. You don't get to die and find peace. You have to live with this. You have to live with what you did." She pulls. With every ounce of strength in her body, with the spirit of Judo, Pippin, Corcus, and everyone else lending her power, she anchors him. The vortex collapses. Griffith's sacrifice burns itself out. The tear seals. Silence returns to the crater of origins. Guts is lying on the ground. The demonic armor has receded, leaving him looking like a man, a giant, scarred, monstrous man, but a man. He is breathing heavily. Casca stands over him. She holds the dragon slayer. Guts looks up at her. His red eye is dim. He looks tired. Infinite exhaustion. "Why?" he asks. Casca looks at the spot where Griffith vanished, the man who hated Guts so much he died to destroy him. And she looks at Guts, the man who loved her so much he destroyed the world to save her. Because death is a mercy, Casca says, cold as ice, and I am not merciful. She turns her back on him. She walks away. I will be out there, she says. I will be rebuilding what you broke, and every day I will get stronger, and you will sit here, you will wait, you will watch the world heal in spite of you, and one day, when I am ready, I will come back, and I will kill you properly. Guts watches her go. He watches her climb onto Zod's back. He watches them fly away into the gray sky. He is alone, truly alone. Griffith is gone, the only equal he ever had. Casca is gone, the only love he ever had. He sits up. He wraps the shadows around himself like a cloak. The armor forms again. The mask slides over his face. The red eye ignites. But it's different now. The rage is gone, replaced by something far heavier. Regret. He sits on his throne of dust, and he waits. This ending recontextualizes Berserk from a story about a man fighting fate to a story about the necessity of the fight. Guts tried to cheat the struggle. He tried to win the game by flipping the board. And his punishment is that he is now the board itself. He is the obstacle. He has become the very thing he hated, a force of nature that exists only to be overcome. And Casca, she becomes the true protagonist. She is the Guts we know. She is the struggler. But she carries a heavier burden because she knows the monster she is fighting isn't a faceless demon. It's the man who used to hold her. The final shot isn't of the moon or the sun. It's a close-up of the dragon slayer dragged through the mud by Casca. On the blade, a single drop of Guts' blood mixes with the dirt, meaning found in suffering. We realize that the struggle isn't about winning. It's about refusing to be what the world wants you to be. Guts failed because he let the world define him as a beast. Casca wins because she refuses to let the world define her as a victim. This scenario is tragic, yes. It is heartbreaking. But it honors the core thesis of Kentaro Miura, that even in the deepest darkness, the human spirit's capacity to endure is the only light we need. We leave the audience not with despair, but with a profound, complicated sense of awe. We have peered into the abyss, and we have seen that even if Guts falls, humanity rises. The story of Berserk is not the story of one man. It is the story of the indomitable will to survive. And that, my friends, is why we love this broken, beautiful, brutal masterpiece. Because in the end, we are all strugglers. And as long as we draw breath, we fight.